much like one of her mentors, Cody Rhodes. You don't have to just win everything on the first go. Sometimes losing and getting back to where you want to be is the better story, and I think that's the story they needed to tell with Jade.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
Hey, yo, and what's up, gang? Thank you for checking out the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV. I am your host, Nick Nightmare, and in this episode, we are going to talk about why Jade Cargill should not have won this year's Queen of the Ring tournament. Now, I want to preface this whole thing by stating without any shadow of a doubt, this is not a hate piece or a hit piece on Jade Cargill. I think Jade Cargill is fantastic. I think that if you were able to go to a laboratory that built professional wrestlers from scratch and said, Mr. Laboratory Guy, make for me the ultimate female professional wrestler. Show me what she would look like. Boom! You're gonna get something pretty close to Jade Cargill. She looks like she was sculpted by Michelangelo himself. Okay, now there are two things that I'm not a fan of. One of those two things are the fake lashes. I wish she would get rid of them. I feel like they make her look like she has a wonky eye sometimes, and it's just a little bit distracting, especially when she's got them on during matches and she's taking damage and like one's like hanging half off, and it's a little off-putting. I maybe use smaller ones, you know, maybe don't get the big boop boopy doop fucking eyelashes, maybe go a little, you know, scale it back a little bit. And not that I know anything about beauty or any of that shit. It just can look a little wonky sometimes. And I'm also not a fan of the short hairdos, but that's just a personal thing of me. I don't like short hair on women, so when she does the short storm style pixie do, I'm not a fan. And when she does the little half bob, I'm not a fan. But when she's got all those other cool hairstyles going on, I think she looks fantastic. Again, much love and respect for Jade Cargill. You're talking about the inaugural AEW Wrestling TBS champion, right? Or television champion, whatever it was. I don't watch that garbage, but I know that she won the title over there. She's a multiple-time tag team champion in the WWE, but she's not really ready for this. And I also don't really want to blame Triple H so much because I'm not really sure if the guy is handcuffed by creative from above, you know, like maybe TKO or somebody at a higher level is like, listen, you got to go with Jade. That's where we want you to go. Or maybe he's simply just losing a little bit of his creative touch, which seems to be a little bit more likely considering everything else going on nowadays in the WWE. But credit where credit is due. Jade Cargill winning the Queen of the Ring is kind of what the Queen of the Ring or the King of the Ring tournament is all about. It's where you take a superstar that's about here and you have them go through a tournament and raise their status by winning and bringing them up here to the main event with or here to the main event with everybody else, right? Putting them on the same page as former King of the Ring winners, Queen of the Ring winners, and champions and stuff in the main event. That it justifies their place. And that's definitely something that Jade Cargill needed. So yes, she is a great candidate to win the Queen of the Ring this year. But I don't really believe it should have happened. And let's talk about a couple of reasons why. One of the reasons was, as I previously just mentioned, is that I don't think she's really that ready. I'm not sure she could really hold a big match on her own. We've seen a couple of times recently on SmackDown that her match quality is just not really at the level that we've seen that she can be. And I don't know if it's a case of nerves or it's a case of her partners or maybe she's putting too much pressure on herself or what it is, but there's something that's just a little bit not there. She needs a little bit more polish. I always felt like she really would have benefited from going to NXT, even if it was just for 3, maybe 6 months, working with the women's division down there, which is the best women's division in all of pro wrestling. Let's not kid ourselves. The girls in NXT throw down and have matches that are crazy and are toned down when they get to the WWE, but they've also performed at a higher level in NXT, so they're able to turn up the volume when they need to. And I don't think Jade really was able to get that little extra seasoning she needed. And even though she spent the last couple of years in the ring as a champion with Bianca Belair, and the few feuds that she's had and her interactions in the ring thus far with everybody else, it's just, to me, not at the level. It doesn't seem to be at the level where I see her confident in the ring and having the ability to maybe carry a match if her opponent's having a bad night. I just feel like she needed just a little bit more time. One more year. And the story could have been Jade Cargill lost the Queen of the Ring this year, and then she goes on a tear for the rest of this year. Maybe she ends up winning the Women's Intercontinental title, all the mid-card titles sometime throughout the year, getting more reps in, getting more practice, getting more exposure, more polish, more fans, and then building to a big match between her and whoever's the champion at next year's WrestleMania, where she could finally get her coronation, finishing her story, much like one of her mentors, Cody Rhodes. You don't have to just win everything on the first go. Sometimes losing and getting back to where you want to be is the better story, and I think that's the story they needed to tell with Jade. Especially when on the other side of the ring, you have a perfectly good Asuka. Another reason that somebody should win a Queen of the Ring tournament is maybe they're coming back from a long-time injury and they need the exposure and they need to be back in the main event. So you have them win a tournament like the Queen of the Ring. You have them win a Royal Rumble. You have them win something of relevance so that they could now be back to where they were when they left before they got injured. That would have been a perfect way to feature Asuka. Asuka should have won this match, not just for that reason, but because the end result and the match that we could have built to for SummerSlam is definitely the more interesting of the two. What are we going to see? Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton? There's no interest in that. There's no story behind that. And that's only being made interesting by the outside factors going on around those two, like Naomi and the Nia Jaxes and the Trish Stratus's getting involved in the feud before the feud even really starts to happen. Tiffany is probably on that same level as Jade, where she's probably not ready to really carry a match on her own as well, even though she is the current world champion. And there's only so much both of those girls are going to be able to do. What would you rather see, Jade versus Tiffany, or would you rather see what I think the money match would have been, Asuka versus Io Sky for the Women's Championship at SummerSlam? That's where they needed to go. Asuka shouldn't be losing so soon upon her return anyway. She should have definitely went over here. That's the big money match. That's what fans would probably rather have seen. Not just take Asuka, have her lose now, and then send her back into the Kabuki Warriors with Kairi Sane because you don't know what else to do with her. I think it was the wrong call. I do not think that's what they should have done. What really should have happened, as I said, you could have just swapped the winners and everything would have been way more exciting. Meanwhile, Jade would have had a whole year of having to have a comeback, getting herself back in shape, getting herself back to the top while getting to the level she needs to be. And then one of them maybe would have turned. Maybe Jade turns heel before the end, goes up against Bianca. We still need to have that match, even though that might be incoming based on what we've seen going forward, looking at Evolution later on this week. So that's why I think Jade winning the King of the Queen, I keep doing that, winning the Queen of the Ring this year was just a mistake. And again, nothing against her personally. I just think the creative move was the wrong decision. You had a perfectly good Asuka versus Io Sky for a championship match at a big pay-per-view right there. And you blew it. You even had the sense to tease it. They even showed them backstage teasing the fact that, oh, I might win. I might fight you. Great. I was hyped when I saw that. That's exactly what I thought they were going to do. But they didn't. They went this other way. And hopefully Jade takes advantage of the situation. Maybe she gets a little more comfortable in her skin. Maybe the closer she gets to her goal, the more she will be able to relax and really perform as we have seen she is capable of. I just feel like her last few matches over the last couple of months have just not been there. They haven't been there. And she needs to just do something else to get herself to the top level, the championship level, where people will believe in her. I feel like she's losing the fans. And the fans need to get behind her again. And what's the best way to do that? A comeback story. She can't have a comeback story when WWE keeps handing you everything and feeding you right to the top. And we all know how that turns out. Right, Charlotte? Right, Roman? Right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about what we talked about here today. Do you think Jade Cargill was a good choice? Do you think we should have went with Asuka instead? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to talk a little bit about Saturday night's main event, that video will be linked in the description down below and probably up here in the corner right about now or so. My name is Nick Nightmare. This has been the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show right here on Sledgehammer TV. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.